As the Toastmaster mentioned, my title of my speech is Self-Efficacy. And I'd like to open up my speech with a quote by Henry Ford, which goes, "Whether you think you can or you can't do something, you're right." The reason why I open up with that quote is because it actually ties into self-efficacy. And the term self-efficacy actually means to believe in one's own abilities. The individual who originally coined this term is known as Albert Bandura, and he's a renowned psychologist who basically postulated that there are 4 different concepts which hinge upon the principle of self-efficacy. These 4 concepts are mastery, modeling, persuasion, and psychology. And I'm going to break down each of these concepts for you. For mastery, that concept is basically self-explanatory. You can master how to drive a car, master how to ride a bike, master a subject. And in my own particular case, I'd actually mastered neuroscience. And neuroscience deals with how the brain works and how it learns information. Once I had mastered this subject, I realized that almost any subject I put my mind to, I could master it, because all I have to do is just break it down to its very base foundation in order for me to understand it and just build upon it little by little, in the same way that you would lay down brick and mortar to build a house. So there are a multitude of different subjects I was able to understand. It could be mathematics, accounting, statistics. Basically all the subjects I struggled with when I was in high school, I understood them when I was in college because I had mastered neuroscience. Now, I wasn't always like this, and that actually leads me to the next concept, which is modeling. And modeling is when you see someone similar to yourself achieve a goal, which gives you the belief that you could achieve the same goal. So when I was actually living in Texas, I remember when I was going to high school down there was this girl who, anytime in our history class, the teacher approached us and gave us our homework, she would just bring out her textbook and knock out her homework right then and there as we were concluding for the last 5 or 10 minutes of class. And after a while of noticing this behavior that she was exhibiting, it just kind of caught on to me, and I just kept taking notice of it. And eventually I started to ask her some questions, because at that time I was honestly a C or D type of a student. So I started to ask her, what's your philosophy on school? What's your strategy? Why do you always just knock out the homework like as soon as you get it? And she told me the reason why she does that is because she wants to go hang out with her friends when she gets home, or hang out with her boyfriend and not have to worry about all that schoolwork, so that's why she knocks it out while she's in school. And I was like, man, that's really brilliant. And I said, okay, what's your philosophy for the test taking and the quizzes? What's your strategy for that? And she explained to me, it's real simple. For that, I just read the assigned chapter for the quiz or the test that the teacher tells us about. That's how I do well in the quizzes and the tests. I know that sounds very simple, but at that time I had no strategy, no plan, no procedure in terms of how I approached school. So for her to divulge all that information to me, it was extremely helpful. And I actually ended up achieving the same type of success that she did because I modeled her. I literally took a monkey see, monkey do approach, and as she was just doing her homework, as soon as the teacher would hand it to her, I did the exact same thing. I'd pull out my textbook for the last 5 or 10 minutes of class and just knock out my homework and just sit there along with her, and ended up achieving the same results. Now, for the next concept, persuasion, I remember when I was in college, we had to give a presentation in front of the dean as well as a few other people. And although we had prepared significantly in advance, and we rehearsed and did everything we had to do, about 5 minutes until the presentation, I was overcome with nerves. I didn't feel comfortable speaking in front of the dean. And I told my group members, you know, you all can just write me out of the speech. You can take credit for what I put together. I don't really feel like speaking. This is the dean and everything. And, one of my group members, after I had said that, he actually put his hand over my shoulder and he said to me, no, don't worry, you'll be fine. Just remember to read what it is that we rehearsed. You only have to read this little part, you'll be perfectly fine, it'll be just like we rehearsed. And in that moment, he had persuaded me to be calm and speak in front of the dean. And so persuasion, that's basically an example of it, but you can see persuasion as maybe someone you look up to. It could be a coach, a parent, or a teacher who persuades you when you may be doubting yourself. They can persuade you to believe that you have the ability to do whatever it is you have to do. Now for the very last concept, which is psychology, this basically ties into different mindsets, emotional states, and stress levels. A perfect example of this would be whenever someone is considering joining Toastmasters. I remember when I first considered joining Toastmasters that I was filled with nerves, and I knew that in order for me to grow when I come to Toastmasters, I'm going to need to have a strategy, because I didn't want to just show up there and then I watch everyone else grow while I'm sitting in the back corner doing nothing. So before I joined, I was already kind of aware of the different Toastmaster subjects that they do and everything that they do at Toastmasters. I was aware of their events and different aspects of it. So I made sure that I would do 3 things before I went there: meditation, breathing exercises, and rehearsals. With meditation, I kept it very simple. I would just sit in a chair and I'd find something to focus on that made me feel calm. So maybe it was a flower or an object or some item that made me feel calm, and I would just sit there and chill, and I'd feel very calm after some time. For the breathing exercises, I actually did some research, and I found out that most people, whenever they get nervous, they do this shallow type of breathing through their chest. And what you're supposed to do in order to calm yourself down is to lay down on your back and do a 4-count breath inhale and a 4-count breath exhale. And you're supposed to do this for some time, like maybe 20 to 30 minutes a day and over a long time span. And then this will start to change your physiological state as well as your psychological state, and then you're going to feel more calm as you're speaking to people. For the very last thing, rehearsal, I have to open up with a quote for this one. I'll never forget when I heard this quote. It goes, before you go somewhere in the body, you have to go there in the mind first. So I knew that in order for me to do well with Toastmasters, I need to rehearse multiple times in front of the mirror, multiple times in front of a video camera, just multiple times in general, even if there is no video camera or mirror, just in order for me to really internalize my speech. So I made sure to do this on a consistent basis. So I feel that if you are struggling with your own sense of self-efficacy, if you apply these 4 concepts, you can also feel an enhanced sense of self-efficacy. So just remember, mastery, modeling, persuasion, and psychology, and I guarantee you'll also be successful. Thank you.